Welcome back to the Rock Show, boys and girls. Ricky Roxx, God of Thunder, Lord of Rock and Roll, RCW American Champion, High Ground Pro Wrestling, Apocalyptic Hell Champion, and action figure collector extraordinaire, coming back at you with another episode of From the Vault, Ricky Roxx with the retro action figure review. The last couple times we got together on his channel, we talked about Kenner's amazing, incredible, iconic 1980s toy line, DC Superpowers. We talked about Superman, the Man of Steel. That video got a great response. We talked about Batman and Robin, the dynamic duo, along with that amazing Kenner Batmobile. That video got a great response. So it seems like we're just going to keep it rolling with this love for the Kenner DC Superpowers line because you guys seem to really react well to it. So I'm a servant to the people, as it were. So today on From the Vault, we're going to be completing the trifecta, the trinity, as it were, of DC's big three characters. We did Superman, we did Batman. So it only stands to reason that we round out the trifecta with Wonder Woman herself, created in 1941, and the first major female superhero character. This figure, one of the earliest Wonder Woman action figures ever done. We're going to take a look, the full 360. But yeah, this is, except for the lasso, original 1984 Kenner original Wonder Woman. Great figure, amazing. Love everything about it. We're going to talk about it. Now, again, I collect these figures loose because I did not have them as a kid. I don't have the original packaging. So this is what it looks like out of the box. This here is pretty much what it would look like in the box. So if you were around back then and kept your toys in the package, which I didn't, I didn't get to have Wonder Woman as a kid. I didn't get to experience superpowers. We talked about that. I had a few, like Darkseid, but I didn't have the main ones. This is one I always wanted. Finally have it. Let's go ahead and take a closer look at the one and only Wonder Woman. We'll be back in a second. And here she is in all her majesty, Princess Diana of Themyscira, the one and only Wonder Woman. 1984 original from Kenner, DC Superpowers, one of the earliest 4-inch scale Wonder Woman figures ever made. We talked about Wonder Woman on the channel before. We talked about the first modern scale 6-inch figure from DC Direct. And now here we're taking it all the way back to the 80s with arguably still one of the best Wonder Woman action figures ever made. I mean, everything about this is so on point to DC comic books style guide as it was in the early 80s. This would have been a relatively recent redesign for Wonder Woman where they updated her look to give her the W breastplate instead of the golden eagle as she had up through the late 70s. This would have been a very early 80s redesign, so they jumped on that right away, trying to make this figure look as up-to-date and modern as possible right out of the gate. Gotta appreciate that. Hair sculpting, I've really noticed, is amazing. They didn't really do a lot of female action figures back then, and when they did, sometimes you'd see corners cut, but not here. They really did a great job on everything with this Wonder Woman figure, right down to the sculpt of the hair, the layering, the texture, even the highlights with the blue paint over the black. Really great job they did on this figure. I am really impressed with it all these years later. This was, again, 1984, and I'm reviewing it in 2024, and it still looks great. This was probably only played with a little bit and maybe displayed or kept in a box with some other toys. As you can see, there's some very slight scuffing on her one boot. There's a little bit of white trim that I gotta fix up. And there's a few scuff marks on her one leg and I think her shoulder, probably from rubbing up against other toys in a toy box or something. But really, this is a 9 out of 10, it looks like, as far as the condition of it. Really awesome figure. Whoever had this before me definitely took really great care of it. I've been really lucky with these Superpowers figures I've been collecting because, again, I did not have most of them as a kid, only got to have most of them in very recent times, and so far I've been very lucky Again, most of them in really great shape. So again, this figure, one of the first articulated Wonder Woman action figures. I'm sure Mego, their dolls and such, predated this by several years, but I distinguish between dolls and action figures, and I'm pretty sure this is one of the first proper action figures of Wonder Woman. Really great job right out of the gate. Influenced a ton of figures to come, specifically the Toy Biz 1989 Wonder Woman that came out a few years after this. Borrowed heavily from it. Not quite as good. We will talk about that in the future. But yeah, gotta love it. Love everything about it. This figure would have been a 10 out of 10 right out of the box, especially for the standards of the time. Does have a superpower action feature, as all the figures in the line did. In her case, her deflector bracelets, which we'll show you in a minute. Like all the other figures, they had some kind of gimmick. Hers comes down to her iconic reflective bracelets that she used in her television series, and very often in the comics as well. We'll be back to take a little bit more hands-on look, but wow, what a great figure, what a perfect likeness of Wonder Woman. Maybe the blue on the trunks could be a little bit darker, but that's a personal choice and a bit of a nitpick. I gotta say, this figure is as close to perfection as it gets in 4-inch scale. We'll be back to take a little bit more hands-on look, but for now, bring it in, man. Great job by Kenner with this amazing Wonder Woman action figure. We'll be back. Alright, we're back with a little bit more hands-on look at this incredible Kenner DC Superpowers Wonder Woman action figure. Again, for 1984 standards, they did a bang-up job. Love the hair sculpting, love the colors, even though you could argue maybe if the blue could be a little darker. I also don't remember seeing her wristbands be that kind of blue in the comics that much, but it looks cool, so I'm willing to give that a pass. This is exactly what Wonder Woman looked like in the comic books at the time, which was most of what they were going for with the Kenner line at the time. They were really trying to replicate every character, for the most part, as close to iconic and that bold image you think of in your imagination when you picture that character. They tried to nail that with every major character in the line, and I think they really did a great job with Wonder Woman. So yeah, the sculpting great, the color's great, the paint is great. There's only a little minor scuffing on this, which shows you how well these characters held up over time. These figures really were well made. You do find a few over time that are damaged, but I've been really lucky so far. I've been getting great deals online for a lot of the main characters, at least Wave 1. Wave 3 is where they really get. But anyway, so like all of the figures in the line, you got the same articulation, very limited at the head because of the hair. You don't really get a lot of movement there, but you get a little bit. The arms move, but they're linked to the gimmick features I'll show you. You get the legs forward and back. Same articulation you get on any of the Superpowers figures. You get the knee joint, nothing at the elbows. They hadn't figured that out till like 2003, which is really weird. But yeah, you get all the standard articulation, plus the gimmick. In her case, you squeeze the legs, and her deflector bracelets power up. You'll remember that in not just the comic books, but also the very memorable Linda Carter television series of the 1970s, Wonder Woman was known for using her wristbands to deflect bullets, and you get that in action figure form here. And squeeze the legs, and pew pew, awesome. Just like you'd imagine. That's pretty good, actually. I mean, it's interesting that of all the main characters, her feature is more of a defensive one, but at the same time, it's pretty creative. Definitely true to the character, because I mean, that was like when you see little kids pretend to be Wonder Woman, you see them do the thing with the bracelet, right? So it's a choice, but I think it works well for the character. Definitely pretty cool. I mean, her one hand is like a chopping hand, so you know you can get something like that. They didn't have any villains for Wonder Woman in the line. They didn't get that far. Matter of fact, the only woman in the line was Wonder Woman. But yeah, so they didn't really have anybody specifically for her to fight. But you know, they had like Lex Luthor or whatever, and he would try to do his chop thing, she could just block him, and then you go, ta, oh, there he goes. So, it's not like there was nothing you could do with her as far as her action feature. So, again, you can definitely get a lot out of it if you use your imagination. I would have loved to have this figure as a kid. I did have the Toy Biz one, which we'll talk about eventually. It was very similar, yet very different at the same time. Again, we will talk about that at some point in the future. The original figure also would have come with her golden lasso of truth. This is a replication of that. I believe I got this from the Cape Master, who I've talked about many times before, and real lifesaver when it comes to some of these figures, because whether it's the capes or the accessories, a lot of them got lost over the years, and thankfully there's replacements out there. This is definitely a lot longer, probably thicker string than the original lasso would have been. So I really enjoy it. I've even seen ones now where like they have a posable string, fire in it. That's pretty cool too. But it holds up really well. Great with the figure. I couldn't stand to have the Wonder Woman figure without the lasso, so it's really hard to find this figure with the original lasso. Thankfully, for about $10 or less, you can get replications. I think that's really I'm over obsessed, man. I think I'm thinking of the I think I got this for only a couple of dollars. So you'd have to go on his website and check that out. But yeah, had to have the lasso to go with the figure. It doesn't do anything except look nice, really. But I mean, you can make bad guys up. And he did that a lot on the show and in the comic book. So I just worried about tangling it or whatever. It's totally. Yeah, that's pretty cool. And she beats him up. I don't know. I don't know if she takes him directly to jail or if she takes him back to her clubhouse to beat him up first. I think it probably depends on which Wonder Woman. But yeah, she's gonna. She's kill all of them. Well, now Wonder Woman. Dun, dun, dun. So we established this is Zack Snyder's Wonder Woman.
Oh no!
Oh no!
Oh no!
Oh no!
Oh no! Oh yeah! What happened?
Now she just dropped Lex Luthor off a freaking cliff.
Well, at least nobody was hurt.
In any case, yeah, so really love this figure. Everything about it, really. I like it better than the Toy Biz one. I like it better than the modern McFarlane ones by a lot. We're going to talk about those figures. I definitely think it's way better than the McFarlane versions by a lot. We'll talk about why when I do those figures. Those are okay, but I really prefer this. The only thing is I wish there was something they could have done about the seams on the legs being so noticeable. That's, it is whatever. My biggest gripe is the feet. Unlike the guys, they gave her really tiny feet, and it makes her very, very hard to stand up on her own. So you're going to want to get some kind of stand or something if you're going to display her figure. I've seen some really awesome Superpowers custom stands out there, but really anything will do as long as it's wide enough. You can get her to stand, but it's tricky because, again, she's got really tiny little feet for some reason. They tried to make up for it by giving her the wedge heels, but you still got to manipulate it a certain way to make her stand. So that's kind of a bummer. They did make her hand wide enough to hold the lasso. The lasso does like to fall out because that's just how stuff goes, but you can get it to stay as long as you don't move her a lot. If you move her a lot, she'll drop it eventually, but it does look great in her hand. Like I said, had to hit up the Cape Master and get the custom lasso to go with the figure because you can't have Wonder Woman without lasso. And she was one of the few early Superpowers figures to come with an accessory, not just a mini comic. I don't have the original mini comic, but as I showed you, I do have the mini comic collections that you can get online for about $20. Definitely invest in those. All the Superpowers figures came with a little mini comic that generally showed the figure's character having some sort of adventure against some bad guy. I don't remember Wonder Woman's off the top of my head, but definitely check them out online. They have all that stuff posted somewhere. So she scales really well with the men in the line. A little on the short side. In modern tellings, they have her be a lot taller, about as tall as Superman or Batman, maybe sometimes even taller, but again, by the standards of the 80s, she fits in really well with your other DC superpowers figures like Superman and Batman. And again, they have feet that are more proportionate, they stand better than she does. You can get them to stand up without much fuss, but she puts up a fight usually. And she dropped away. So as you can see, again, she does scale really well with the other figures in the Superpowers line. She is the standout because it is the only female character they did. They didn't get around to doing Cheetah or Supergirl or Catwoman or any of those. They were speculated and in some cases even planned, but they never got that far. But once again, you have to have the big three in any DC action figure collection. So couldn't stop with just Superman and Batman. Had to have Wonder Woman to complete the trifecta. Really happy to have this figure in the collection. And, I definitely recommend picking it up. They're not hard to find on eBay, and it is one of the more reasonably priced figures in the Kenner line because she is Wave 1. They did millions of her, and a lot of them are still out there in great shape, just like this one. Nearly perfect with the working action feature. Doesn't get much better than that. I don't remember what I paid, but I remember it was not a fortune. I even felt bold enough to go ahead and spring for a cape or a lasso from the Cape Master when I was buying some custom capes. They'll usually do bundles like that for great deals, so check him out online as well. I think I got the lasso in a bundle with some Superman and Batman capes, and I think it might have even been a bonus, a throw-in, so that's cool as well. So yeah, when you're collecting superpowers, sometimes you need that kind of extra help because a lot of the early accessories, like the lasso or the capes, they got thrown out. So great to have guys like the Cape Master Michael Marquez out there picking up the slack for all of us collectors. Big shout out to him. Thanks a lot, buddy. So yeah, definitely pick this figure up if you can find it in great shape, which shouldn't be hard to do. I didn't go broke getting her in the collection. It was one of the first ones I picked up, as a matter of fact, because when I started collecting, I knew I had to have Wonder Woman in the collection. Just that important of a character, and this is by far one of the greatest figures they ever did with that character. And we will talk about the Toy Biz one that's heavily based on this one. We'll talk about the newer McFarlane ones, which I'm not a huge fan of so far, I have to say, spoiler alert, but we will talk about them because I do generally like what McFarlane is doing with his version of superpowers. I just really don't like his Wonder Woman figures. I think this is still the standard in 4-inch scale. I think it's going to remain that way for a long, long time because, once again, it's almost friggin' perfect. I mean, what else can you say? So on that note, we're going to take it home. Ricky Rocks talking about DC Superpowers from Kenner, one of the greatest DC action figure lines of all time. That's not in dispute. That's just the facts. Always a great day when I get to talk about any of these figures. Today we talked about Wonder Woman. You never know what we're going to talk about next. Could be more of these. Could be something totally different. Stick around and find out. Like it, share it, subscribe it, comment on it. Tell me what you want to see. Because, I'm always curious. I might not listen, but you can tell me anyway. You never know. You might get lucky. Maybe I'll tell you where to go. You don't know until we get there, right? So until then, until we get there, this has been Ricky Rocks, the God of Thunder, Lord of Rock and Roll, King of Hell, Champion of America. Right now, that's pretty much the same thing. We're going to come at you next time on From the Vault with some more retro action figure review. Till then, if you can't be good, be bad, baby.